Prayers.
Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness have appointed the officers of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of humanity, we beseech you to look upon with abundant favor these your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important tasks in this land. Let your blessing descend upon them here assembled, and grant that they may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under their deliberation, in so just and faithful a manner as promote your honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interests you have committed to your church.
Amen. Item number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable members, I welcome you to this sitting. I have received information that there will be the Catholic High Mass this evening starting at 5 p.m. and I've been requested and I have accepted that we'll do our best to make sure that we rise before that Mass begins to enable our colleagues of that faith to attend that service. So let's start immediately.
Item 3.
There's Igara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, I rise on a point of urgent national importance. Igara constituency in Bushenyi district has been invaded by a strange insect. I'm told it's called the variegated grasshopper, not the usual grasshopper which we know, otherwise by now we would have cleared them. But this one is a very hostile insect. It eats up all green vegetation, including natural forest, the tea, bananas, eucalyptus, cassava, potatoes, coffee, and so on. The sub-counties most affected are Chamuhunga, Bitoma, Kakanju, and Ruhumuro, and the surrounding areas. I've talked to the agriculture office of Chamuhunga sub-county, where I come from, and he told me in the last 2 months, between May and July, we had lost about 2% of the vegetation in my sub-county. The situation has been aggravated by a long dry spell, which has affected our area. Indeed, people are at risk of starvation and dwindling incomes. Mr. Speaker and honorable members, I'm therefore requesting for urgent and immediate government intervention. And specifically, I'm requesting for the following assistance. 1, that the Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries should immediately send a team of experts to the area to assess the situation and take the necessary action. Number 2, that government should provide the necessary and adequate pesticide, pumps and safety gear to the farmers. Mr. Speaker, the reaction of the government to this problem was to give us only 20 liters of a pesticide called Rocket. It actually works, it kills those insects. But you can imagine giving a whole sub-county 1 jerrycan, 20 liters of pesticide. I think the government needs to be a little more serious. And thirdly and last, Mr. Speaker, I'm requesting the Ministry in charge of disaster preparedness to give food relief and assistance to the affected families. Mr. Speaker, we need your assistance. Thank you.
Okay. Information on that matter, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I just want to concur on some of the issues with the Honorable Raphael Majezi, because we share the same constituency. And what is coming out is that these tiny grasshoppers, so to speak, because we don't know the technical biological name, they are eating anything green in their path. So if we do not put in more effort, the famine will be aggravated. And I know that government is doing what it can, but he's right to say that more needs to be done. In fact, I was reminded of the invasion of locusts, I think in 1940, which we read in history, where they ate anything green in their path, and the land was left desolate. So Honorable Raphael Majezi has got a very, very crucial and emergency on his hands, or on our hands. Thank you. Right, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Can we get clarification? This is disaster. What clarification are you seeking? Please, Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, indeed, the matter that Honorable Raphael Majezi has raised needs express attention. And in his prayer, number one is for the Minister of Agriculture to send a team. I'm so surprised that the team is not yet on the ground. And therefore, this afternoon, I'm going to cross-check with the Minister of Agriculture, because this is not the first time that we get such invasions, and whenever it happens, a report is required so that the scientists, our researchers, can be able to prescribe what kind of pesticide we can do or what kind of measures we can take. So this, we have to embark on it. The last point of food relief, I just want to communicate the President's message regarding giving relief to the people whenever we are faced by such problems. Recently, the President told us in Cabinet the experience he encountered in Kanungu, where 2 sub-counties of Kanungu suffered, and they needed food, and food was collected from, voluntarily, from the rest of the sub-counties in that district, Kanungu district, and they saved the situation. And the President directed me to communicate to this House to encourage, for example, if there are sub-counties in Bushenyi district which are food secure, they can be encouraged to come in and assist, because this used to be the Ubuntu, it used to be the style when disaster falls one's family, other families come in to help. It has happened in Kanungu. The President directed me to communicate to this House, and I request that we encourage, because disasters will always come. One sub-county has been affected. The rest are not affected, because what it requires is alter. Go out.
Mr. Speaker, the government of Uganda has a ministry for disaster preparedness, and even in our budgeting, we talk about the contingency fund to take care of emergency and those disasters in the country. Is it in order for a lady who really, honorable member of parliament, whom we respect, whom I think is more senior than myself, to come here and then tell the country that government has shifted the burden of handling disaster to the citizens of Uganda? Is it in order?
Honorable members, the matters of disasters are serious matters. And by the time they bring it here, it's not like communities among themselves don't try. It is beyond those communities to handle. That's why they bring the matters here. Please.
Right Honorable Speaker, I have communicated the President's directive to me. I will communicate your guidance to the President. And I will also make sure that the ministry in charge of disaster preparedness goes on the ground and does the needful. But let it be on record that I have communicated the message to encourage people to contribute when we have problems.
Right Honorable Speaker, my sister, the government chief whip, is trying to labor to explain the situation in which the president is finding himself in, that is calling upon citizens to really now have the Ubuntu and contribute to save lives. Right Honorable Speaker, it is still very fresh within our memory that this House realized that there was this great need for this country to be supported. And they, in their own wisdom, Right Honorable Speaker, passed a resolution to declare this country a state of emergency, so that whoever is willing and whoever is ready can come in and support the hungry people of Uganda. Wouldn't it be procedurally correct for the government chief whip to carry on this resolution of Parliament and take it to the president so that he really understands the reasoning behind the resolution of Parliament, so that this state is declared a state of emergency, so that good-hearted people, not necessarily within Uganda or even outside Uganda, can come to our rescue and help us to answer the food situation in this country? Wouldn't it be procedurally correct that we take it that way?
It could be procedurally correct, but these insects just show up the other day. It was not anticipated. By the time we were passing this resolution, it was not one of those things that were considered to constitute this situation. So how do we use this housing to make it a matter that now becomes an issue? Because the matter raised from Igara is a very recent issue, just days old. That resolution was passed some time back because of the speaker,
information
to the speaker.
Information to
Please,
the
please,
chief, to the government chief whip.
Please.
Information to the House.
Please. Procedure.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, on the 29th of June, 2017, the Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs was directed by the Speaker to give the people of Uganda and also Parliament an update on the issue of the districts which were created and that were supposed to take effect from 1st July of this year, Right Honorable Speaker, 2017. The districts in question include Nebi, Pakwach, which was carved out of Nebi, and Bunyangabu, which was carved out of Kabarole, Namisinda, which was carved out of...
So the districts are known. What is the matter you're raising?
The matter was that the Electoral Commission had written to the Chief Administrative Officer for Kabarole that they would not conduct elections for adult suffrage for the woman member of Parliament. And the Speaker asked the Minister to come and clarify to the House and the people of Uganda the stand of government on that. because the people in those districts, Right Honorable Speaker, had prepared themselves, and government had not come out clearly to state what they are intending to do because they were waiting for elections. That was the matter, Right Honorable Speaker. And the Speaker directed that actually the matter should be brought to the attention of the House the following Tuesday, which expired far early this month, Right Honorable Speaker. So the issue is, why hasn't the minister brought the statement, brought clarification to this House in regard to the status of those new districts that were supposed to take effect from 1st July of 2017?
I don't know. I don't know why he has not brought the statement. Because if he had brought, I would have put it on the order paper. But honorable members, by the time we come up with this order paper, that is the business that is available. So to come and ask the Speaker to clarify on why some statements are not on the order paper, I think it's not fair to the presiding officer. It's not fair, because what I have as business is what I have on the order paper. So let me deal with the business that I have on the order paper. Please, let's proceed. Please, let's proceed. Let's proceed with the business.
Item number 3, bills first reading.
There was a matter from Mitiana. Has it been withdrawn?
Proceed, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, allow me to talk about water crisis in Mitiana district. Right Honorable Speaker, in the last 1 week, Mitiana district, we are having a crisis of water, especially in the rural areas. You realize that sub-counties like Namungo, Sekanyonyi, Banda, Manyi, Bulela, and Chikandwa are really water stressed. The few water sources and boreholes have completely dried out. People move in the wee hours of the night to look for water, and they spend long hours. School-going children have been affected in one way or another, that by the time they are sent to collect water, by the time they return, it is too late for them to go to school. Right Honorable Speaker, my prayer would be for government to attend to this situation urgently, and also make sure that boreholes, all production wells are dug in Mitiana district. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Information. Thank you very much, my colleague.
Are you from Mitiana district? Please.
I was giving information.
Please,
Right Honorable
let's deal with the matter from the member of Mitiana has raised.
I was giving her information. She had given me way. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I was giving Honorable Nabakoba and the House information concerning water. Right Honorable Speaker, you realize the price of water for domestic use has been going up. In February 2017, a unit for domestic was going for 2,600.
You see, Honorable.
By April, it was 2,700.
Let's not dilute the issue that has been raised of a crisis in Mitiana. Now you are talking about piped water in domestic houses. This is about rural people who are suffering without water because the wells have dried. Please, let's not dilute the issues. Please, government.
Right Honorable Speaker, I appreciate the problem that we are faced with water, especially in the southwest. We've been experiencing a very unusual drought, and this has affected most of our water sources. We are now resorting to actually moving water in bulk to communities. So we are going to work as a ministry to also include Mitiana among the beneficiaries. But all these are because of the things that we've been doing, degradation of wetlands and also the climate change. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item.
Item 3, bills first reading.
Honorable members, in the gallery this afternoon, we have pupils and teachers of Kennedy Primary School, Wakiso District, represented by Honorable Rosemary Seninde and Honorable Peter Sematimba. They are here to observe the proceedings. Please join me in welcoming them. We also have pupils and teachers of Kayunga Girls Primary School, Kayunga District. They are represented by Honorable Aida Nantaba and Honorable Lugolobi Amos. They are here to observe the proceedings. Please join me in welcoming them. Honorable Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the bill entitled the Uganda Wildlife Bill 2017 be read for the first time.
Thank you.
The Uganda Wildlife Bill 2017.
Thank you.
Item 4, redesignation.
We have not had confirmation that it is accompanied by necessary accompanying documents. It's under certificate of financial implication. Is it attached? Would you like to lay it on the table?
Right Honorable Speaker, the Minister of Trade is supposed.
Would you like to lay
the Minister of Tourism is supposed.
Would you like to lay the certificate of financial implication? If it is not there, we stay it until
Order.
it is.
The
Please,
certificate is
Order.
not here yet.
Please, Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker.
Please.
And
if the certificate
it's not here yet.
If the certificate is not there, please withdraw the bill, bring it back when it is ready.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg for your indulgence. I beg to lay the certificate of financial implication for the Uganda Wildlife Bill 2017. It's here.
Thank you.
The Uganda Wildlife Bill 2017.
Let the records capture that. It stands referred to appropriate committee to handle within the framework of the rules and report to the House. Thank you. Next item.
Item number 4, redesignation of member to sectoral committee.
Government whip.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to designate the following members to the following committees. Honorable Najuma Sarah was, who is the woman MP for Nakaseke District, was serving on the Committee of Gender and Social Development. Would like to serve on the Committee of Defense and Internal Affairs. Honorable Mugisa Mohanga Margaret, from Natural Resources Committee to Physical Infrastructure Committee. Honorable Etuka Isaac, from the Committee of ICT to the Committee of Education. And Honorable Akampura Prosi, from the Committee of East African Community to the Committee of Defense and Internal Affairs. I beg to designate them.
I put that request. Will those in favor charge to the contrary? No. There is have it.
Right Honorable Speaker, there is a new member of Parliament who joined much as we were at one time with him here, but he went back for a by-election, and I beg that I designate him on the standing committee. And this is Honorable Etuka Isaac, MP for Upper Madi, designating him to serve on the Committee of Local Government Accounts. I beg to designate.
I put the question that will those in favor charge to the contrary? No. The ayes have it.
Item number 5, statements by ministers.
Honorable Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, I raise to present a ministerial statement on climate change adaptation and mitigation measures taken by government of Uganda to address the effects of climate change. This is in response to a question that was raised by Honorable Cecilia Atim Ogwal, District Woman Representative Dokolo. The questions were, what climate change adaptation measures has government put in place to address the effects on climate change? When is government ratifying the Paris Agreement in regard to climate change? Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, there is no longer any doubt that climate change poses serious threats to Uganda's development and our well-being. The accelerating and deepening impacts of climate change will touch everyone on earth, but those who stand to suffer most, despite their least contribution to the cause of climate change, are the poor. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, climate change is not just a human tragedy, but is changing the very basis of human survival, as well as the environment, because of ecosystems that are equally vulnerable to impacts of climate change. Honorable Speaker, in recognition of the serious threats posed by climate change, my ministry has taken and continues to take bold measures to secure the country's development against the risks and impacts of climate change. In this global fight against climate change, Uganda has joined the Community of Nations and signed and ratified 3 international climate change instruments. 1, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. 2, the Kyoto Protocol. 3, the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. Honorable Speaker, to implement the country's priority climate change adaptation and mitigation measures, there are challenges that we ought to overcome if we are to realize our development aspirations and contribute to our international obligations. These include, but not limited to, 1, limited capacity to manage extreme weather events, like we now have the drought in the West. 2, limited financial resources to implement both adaptation and mitigation measures. Honorable Speaker and members, to address some of these challenges, my ministry, through the Climate Change Department, has and continues to mobilize the required financing in close collaboration with the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to address climate change challenges. It has also embarked on the formulation of a standalone climate change bill, which will provide a general legal framework for implementation of Uganda's national climate change policy, the national determined contribution, and related climate change actions. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, our active engagement in the intergovernmental climate change policy processes, including negotiations, have yielded benefits, in particular, in mobilizing climate financing in respect, and let me highlight few examples. In December 2016, the Green Climate Fund Board meeting, Uganda's proposal totaling to $24.1 million on building resilient communities, wetland ecosystems, and associated catchments in Uganda was approved. This project will be implemented in the southwestern Uganda and in these districts: Kabale, Kisoro, Kanungu, Rukunjiri, Greater Bushenyi, and Antungamo. In eastern Uganda, it will be implemented in 10 districts of Palisa, Chibuku, Bukedea, Namutumba, Butaleja, Budaka, Tororo, Kaliro, Ngora, and Mbale, with a total population of 3,946,366 people and land area of 13 square kilometers. At least 800,000 people in and around wetlands will directly benefit from the proposed interventions. The Ministry of Water and Environment has also received a grant totaling to US dollars 7.7 million from the Adaptation Fund for implementing enhancing resilient communities to climate change through catchment-based integrated management water and related resources in Uganda. The project interventions will be implemented in 3 catchments of Awoja, Aswa, and Maziba. And in Awoja catchment, it is targeting the districts of Soroti, Sironko, Napak, Bulambuli, Kapchorwa, and Kumi. In Aswa, it is covering the following districts: Abim, Gulu, Aleptong, and Lira. While in Maziba catchment is covering the districts of Kabale, Kisoro, and Tungamo. In addition, another project of $4 million US dollars on strengthening climate information and early warning systems for climate resilient development and adaptation to climate change in Uganda is being implemented by Uganda National Meteorological Authority. This project aims to establish functional network of meteorological hydrological monitoring stations across the country to help understand better weather and climate over time and provide timely information to avert any weather and climate-related disasters. Right Honorable Speaker, because of climate change, we are experiencing areas which used to have rainfall going into rain shadows. So this intervention is going to help us, like what we have in Kanungu now. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, I further wish to inform you that my ministry has worked with Climate Change Investment Fund to lead multilateral development banks, namely the ADB, that is the African Development Bank, and the World Bank to prepare strategic programs on climate resilience and the forest investment plans. I'm pleased to inform you that both investment plans were unanimously endorsed by the Climate Investment Fund subcommittee early last month in Washington, D.C. This puts Uganda in a better position to accessing resources from the Green Climate Funds and the Global Environment Facility. Right Honorable Speaker and members, the challenges we face cannot be underestimated. And in this regard, I request for indulgence of this August House to help in appropriating more resources towards climate mitigation and adaptation measures. In regard to the proposed legislation, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, I want to pledge my ministry's commitment to table before the House, after Cabinet's approval, the climate change bill by end of October this year. The proposed legislation is expected to better address the management of climate change challenges in the country. As usual, I count on the support of honorable members to give us overwhelming support in passing this piece of legislation. Honorable Speaker, permit me also to inform this August House that this year's United Nations Climate Change Conference, that is the COP23, will take place from 6th to 17th November 2017 at the World Conference Center in Bonn, Germany. Here I kindly request that more members join me and beef me up in this conference like you did in the last one, COP22. Right Honorable Speaker, let me now therefore lay on the table of this August House the following hard copy documents: the status report of climate change actions in Uganda, the Paris Agreement on climate change, implications of the Paris Agreement to Uganda, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change documents.
Are those all the documents? There was another document?
What?
Uganda's national...
The copies have already been
Okay,
distributed
let the record
to the
capture that.
members.
Proceed, Honorable.
Okay. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, to conclude, My ministry appreciates your support in moving the climate change agenda forward. I also note the enormous challenges before us that we have to overcome to ensure that a robust and climate resilient and low carbon development pathway is realized for Uganda. On this note, Right Honorable Speaker, let me reiterate my ministry's readiness to continue providing leadership to address climate change challenges in the country, and I also equally count on your support that of all honorable members in the efforts to address the problem of climate change and ensure we achieve our development priorities for socio-economic transformation in the inevitable ever-changing climate for God and my country. I beg to move.
Thank you. Thank you very much, honorable members. From the structure of this intervention from the honorable member for Dokholo, it is a parliamentary question for oral answer. That is answered under our Rule 42 and under Rule 43. The member or any other member may ask supplementary questions specifically on the question raised and the answered. Honorable.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question. Proceed.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank the Minister for attempting to answer my question. Right Honorable Speaker, the issue is much bigger than what the Minister is telling us. My concern is that for several years, Uganda delegation has been participating in the high-level negotiations at the global level in how to deal with the climate change challenges. And we would like to know, what have we come out of those negotiations? And we have been told that Ugandans have been so influential in those conferences that in some meetings, they have even chaired the negotiating meetings. And not only that, they have even been drivers in some of the sectors. I would like to know, what have we got? What have you gathered from all those conferences? Every year, can you tell us, what did we achieve as a country? In us sending a delegation, spending money on the delegation, and giving them even special budgets for those delegations. What have we achieved? Don't just tell me, don't just scratch the surface.
Honorable,
I want
please.
to know in details. Right Honorable Speaker.
Supplementary question, please.
Supplementary
Please.
question, because I'm the one who is asking this question and I've been very involved. I would like to know, what are the challenges that your sector ministry has come out with, which are associated with climate change? What are the programs the government has in place for dealing with those challenges? And please don't tell us about what the donors have given us.
Honorable,
what
please.
have you planned and what is in place to deal with those challenges in as far as climate change is concerned? I thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. There are time issues allocated to this kind of procedure. It's not a debate. The supplementary question, the member who asked the question has raised a supplementary question and has taken all the time providing the rules. Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, please proceed.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for, I'm very appreciative of the honorable member, because climate change is also very harsh. So I like the tone in which you are questioning me, because it is also very harsh. So for members, yeah, it is true, in the past, teams have been going to attend these COPs for negotiations. And during the negotiations, they normally put things forward to, you try to get out from what you can go with home. But I must mention that last year's COP was unique, COP 22. As ministers, we agreed that no more negotiations, but we want actions. So that's why you now see, this year when we go, We are going to take very few negotiators, but more teams to look for more actions. And what is also unique is that we've been negotiating as Africa. Because when we go to negotiate, we don't negotiate as Uganda. Because we've been negotiating as Africa. And to be frank, as Africa, we don't contribute much to this climate change, even if you say...
Order, Right Honorable Speaker.
Point of order.
Right Honorable Speaker, I've been fortunate to be attending climate change conferences almost every year, right from Durban. Not sponsored by government, but I've been following event. Is the minister in order to say that we negotiate at a continental level when actually every country must have a position? And whatever position Uganda has must come to this house, we discuss it, we debate it, and we know what the outcome would be. Is the minister in order to say we negotiate at a global level? Now, if I ask you what is the impact of the global level of the results of your negotiation, what would you say? Nothing. So please tell me from the Ugandan perspective, what has been our position? Are you in order to misguide the House?
Honorable member, that sounded more like a clarification than a point of order, because the factual issues raised, the Speaker is not privy to. Can you proceed and deal with those issues raised, please? Please, please, please.
Now, thank you very much, Right Honorable Prime Minister. You know, climate change, sorry, Right Honorable, sorry, these things. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. These things happen, you know. Yesterday I was in the cabinet.
Proceed,
so
proceed,
it
Honorable
happens. Now listen. Now, why we look at climate change at a global scale? Because it can be Uganda doing something wrong. It is Kenya affected. So just as I say that the impacts that we feel, we are not the cause. So that's why we have to look.
Order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I stand on a point of order to put the minister, clarify that if Uganda is affected, Kenya is not affected. Kenya has implemented that Kenya does not allow in vehicles that are more than 5 years to enter Kenya because they know the problem of gas emissions. Uganda has not. And your ministry, you have done nothing about it. Are you in order, therefore, to say if Uganda is affected, Kenya is not affected? Are you in order?
Honorable members, please let's stick to the rules. If you want to seek clarification from the minister, don't seek priority ranking by raising order. Because you raise order, then you say you want clarification. Honorable Minister, please wind up.
Thank you very much. Right, Honorable Speaker, you know, we are bringing a bill where all these things will be debated. But to talk about the vehicles, I think Uganda, we also have a tax on old vehicles. And this is a step. So at least we are moving towards that. If Kenya has moved ahead, but we also have a tax on old vehicles. And this goes into the environment fund. So at least we are doing something. Also as a country, Right Honorable Speaker, to answer what we have achieved, we've mainstreamed climate change in all government programs. So whatever you do, you have to ensure that there are certain things which you do, projects especially. Like right now we are going for irrigation. This is an intervention. Yes. Yeah. Yes, irrigation is a way of addressing that. Members, so maybe exactly. So we now have irrigation schemes, and these are aimed at making people adapt. So like Doho, we've already put an irrigation scheme. There is Mubuku 1.
Procedure, point of procedure.
We now have 133.
Point of procedure from Bulamoy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we appreciate that the importance of the issues of climate change are so serious and consequences are grave. But Mr. Speaker, I'm wondering, because we are listening to the minister presenting a ministerial statement, and a ministerial statement would attract some minimum debate. Mr. Speaker, it has always been reflected. If it is a question for oral answer, it is reflected that the minister is responding to a question for oral answer. But in this case, the minister opted to come and bring a statement to the floor. Wouldn't it be procedurally right, Mr. Speaker, that you allow some minimum debate on this very important issue? Right, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member, I guided at the beginning of this. This is not a ministerial policy statement. This is a response to specific questions that are very similar to a parliamentary question. One was, what climate change adaptation measures has government put in place to address effects of climate change? And two, when is government ratifying the Paris Agreement in regard to climate change? These are parliamentary questions which fall under Rule 42. That's why I am proceeding. Because you cannot say this is a ministerial statement. This is a response to a question. Yes, so we're not debating it. Please go by that ruling. If you have objections to it, there are procedures you follow. Please wind up. Please wind up. Please wind up. We don't debate by procedure. Please. Honorable Minister, please wind up. We have spent all the time. Have you wound up?
Thank you.
Procedure.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the way the minister is answering has raised so many issues. He has gone into areas of intervention. Wouldn't it be procedurally right for us to ask the minister to go back and it comes with a comprehensive report, giving us all the interventions in all sectors, such that members get to know which sectors have we intervened in. So I think that would be much better. It would enable us to understand what Uganda has done, what the country has done, other than us allowing the minister and interjecting. So I think the procedural question I'm raising is, would it be procedural right for the minister to go back and she comes back next week with a statement detailing the interventions government has undertaken in addressing the issues of climate change?
Honorable members, that will be another process altogether. This was asked. Because we have business that is scheduled. We have business that is scheduled. And this way of jamming up the system by this plugging in questions that were not even anticipated would push aside business that is already on schedule. So let the minister go prepare at our own time, come and advise the House on what they are doing about these matters. Really. But we cannot say come next week, no. Because next week we have business, other business. Even 2 weeks we have other business. When the minister is ready, she will ask for order and we'll proceed. Let's be orderly in this House, please. That's the only way we'll be able to achieve what we already have as business. Otherwise we'll keep shelving business, and will not move. Let's proceed. Next item.
Item 5B.
Honorable members, in the distinguished treasures gallery this afternoon, we have a delegation from the International Chamber of Services Industries, Republic of India. They include the Honorable Inder Singh Atwal, Honorable Deep Kumar, Honorable Hitesh Sood, Honorable Arwani Kumar Gupta, Honorable Anish Prabhalal, Honorable Vinet Agoral, Honorable Ariputal Singh, Honorable Paramaprit Singh Singhu. The names are very difficult. Honorable Kamalprit Singh, Mr. Kamalprit, Engineer Balwinder Singh, Mr. Joginder Singh, Mr. Dishald, Mr. Amrit Saab, Mr. Jagdish, and Honorable Katongole Singh, former Member of Parliament. Please join me in welcoming them. You're very welcome. Next item.
Item 5B, Ministerial Statement.
Honorable Minister, Sugar.
Sugar is not here, Right Honorable. The minister in charge of sugar is not in the house.
Next item.
Item 6, Personal Statement.
The Honorable Member for Kasese District.
Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, I move under Rule 46 of our Rules of Procedure to present a statement of personal explanation. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, on Tuesday 11th July 2017 at about 23:43 hours, while being hosted on Ebukede TV talk show, the talk show is called Akabingano. The Minister of State for Lands, the Honorable Persis Princess Namuganza, stated that the land grabbing in this country knows no party or political affiliations, which I know is correct. This was in her effort to defend the need for amending Article 26 of the Constitution to provide for land acquisition by government before compensations of those affected. The Honorable Minister in this show stated that in Kasese District, there is a powerful Forum for Democratic Change Member of Parliament who is a woman that has grabbed land from a school leading to the relocation of the school. Right Honorable Speaker, as we speak, since the ushering in of multi-party politics, I'm the only member of parliament from Kasese District who is a woman and subscribes to the Forum for Democratic Change Party. I may not say that she's the most powerful, but in her own words, she says she's the most powerful. And I take it by God's grace. It can only be that she was referring to me, and she, in her own words, called me a thief, an uncompromising land grabber. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, I have seized that infamous night received incessant calls from both friends and non-friends, from the people of Kasese, a district I represent in this parliament, the leadership of my party, Forum for Democratic Change, where I serve as the chairperson of the Women League of the party. Friends in this house who are my friends where I'm serving as the leader of the opposition in this parliament, and possibly that is the powerful status that she talked about. Friends who are members of parliament here are asking me, my friends from outside this country have since called me to question my integrity and possibly losing hope that the person they so much held in high esteem has turned into a land grabber. And they have expressed disappointment from a leader they have for long held in high regard. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, this reckless and baseless statement from a person no less than a minister has injured my hard-earned, over the years built reputation, clarity of purpose, standing in society, and personal esteem. I'm aware that the Honorable Minister has on several occasions been reported attacking fellow leaders, more especially women leaders, with her unfortunate, baseless, and immature allegations. One wonders, Right Honorable Speaker, whether this is as a result of inexperience or excitement upon political elevation. I stand here, Right Honorable Speaker, to state that I have never grabbed any land from anybody, let alone a school. I'm not in any process whatsoever of doing such an act, and I have no intentions of doing so, even if this power was given to me. Right Honorable Speaker, I wish to challenge the State Minister for Lands, the Honorable Princess Persis Namuganza, to adduce sufficient evidence to prove her assertions. This must include the location of the land in question, the name of the school affected, the period when this happened, and the current status of the piece of land. Failure by the minister to comply will leave me no option but to seek legal redress. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to submit.
Honorable Minister, honorable members, please. Honorable members, this is a personal statement. Honorable members, this is a personal statement. And if the affected person wants to make a statement, that person can make a statement, but a personal statement does not attract a debate. But the matters raised are serious. They were not raised in the precincts of Parliament, they were raised outside Parliament. And the member who has raised this matter is calling upon the other person to adduce sufficient evidence to prove allegations. Honorable members, we have procedures and processes in Parliament on how to handle such things. We have the Rules, Privileges and Discipline Committee that has task of dealing with these kind of things. But I want to come back on this at the next sitting of Parliament to give proper guidance on how this matter will be handled. For now, we received the statement as is, but I'll communicate at the next sitting of Parliament how this matter will be handled, since they bear on some issues that are in our rules of procedure. Thank you. Next item.
Item 7, presentation of a petition by the defunct East African community.
Honorable Member for Dokolo South.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I move this petition under our rule of 29 of our rules of procedure of this Parliament. Mr. Speaker, the humble petition of former employees of the defunct East African community, presented by me, Member of Parliament for Dokolo South constituency. Mr. Speaker, the subject matter of this petition regards the non-payment of pension and other terminal benefits of former employees of the defunct East African community, accruing from services they rendered the community from 30th June 1977 to date. The East African community, which constitutes of Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania, was formed in 1967, but it collapsed in June 1977. In order to protect the pensionable rights of her nationals, government enacted Decree number 6 of 1978, whose main objective was to amend the Pension Act Cap 281 and regulations thereunder so as to integrate the former employees of the defunct East African community into the Ugandan pension legal regime. In addition, Mr. Speaker, the government of Uganda signed the East African Mediation Agreement in 1984 with the former partner states of the defunct East African community, by which government agreed that each partner states to assume responsibility for settlement of pension and other terminal benefits for its respective nationals that served under the defunct East African Community. Pursuant to the 1984 mediation agreement, government in 1992 started making payments of terminal benefits to former employees of the defunct East African Community through the payment, though the payments were inadequate and because they did not cover all the claimants' entitlements and benefits. On the 8th February 1996, Mr. Speaker, government constituted a committee under the chairmanship of Adrian Sibo to draw up a comprehensive register of all ex-East African Community employees to determine those that had so far been paid and those yet to be paid, and the payment procedure in terms of principal payments and interest thereof. Though the committee compiled a comprehensive list of all beneficiaries and their entitlements under the various departments and institutions under the defunct East African Community, it did not resolve all claims and recommended that future claims be administratively verified and settled. Mr. Speaker, government, therefore, in order to pave way for final settlement and, of terminal benefits in 2000, further constituted an inter-ministerial technical committee to review all claims of former East African employees and advise government on how to resolve these payments in 2 equal installments. The technical committee advised government to do, among others, A, raise an equivalent of 45 billion to cover all the former employees of East African Community, gratuity, interest, and provident fund, and pension arrears. B, the additional eligible employees not covered under SIBO report be recognized and then taken on board during payment of benefits of employees of the defunct community. C, the services of those pensionable ex-employees be recognized and accordingly be paid their pension and pension arrears in accordance with the Pension Act Cap 281. The processing of claims and disbursements of funds for compensation of ex-employees of the former community workers should be expedited by the Minister of Public Service, Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and the Office of the Auditor General thereto should also be involved. Despite the above recommendations, Mr. Speaker, not all former employees of the East African Community have actually received payment for all their pension and retirement benefits pursuant to Article 10.5 of the East African Community Mediation Agreement of 1984. Some have received gratuity, accumulated simple interest. Some have received gratuity and accumulated simple interest or provident fund benefit, while others have never been paid their benefits. Mr. Speaker, it is true that all former employees of the East African Community are entitled to payment of pension and related benefits pursuant to Article 10.5 of the East African Community Mediation Agreement of 1984, and any other continued attempt to deny them the same is not only a clear breach of the agreement by our country, but sets a bad record for our country in as far as complying with international, regional, and national obligations are concerned. Most former employees of the East African Community are currently over 65 years of age and facing various health, social, and economic difficulties, which could be reduced if their pension and terminal benefits are expeditiously paid to them. Continued denial of pension and terminal benefits to claimants not only adversely affects their life and pride in the community they proudly worked hard to represent, it also creates a bad precedent for government in relation to payment of pension to former government employees. This uncertainty in pension payment demotivates the current civil servants because they may never get to see their pension in old age despite their gallant service to their country. Now, therefore, your humble petitioners pray that this Parliament, one, intervenes in this matter and investigates the reasons why government has failed to finally settle and effect payment of pension and terminal benefits to all former employees of the defunct East African community. Two, recommends to government to find a final and binding solution to the matter relating to the pensions of the former employees of the defunct East African community. And your humble petitioners are in duty bound, will ever pray, and therefore your humble petitioners have appended their signatures, which are here, and in this document, relevant documents that I present to this Parliament. Mr. Speaker, I beg to present.
Would you like to lay the petition on the table?
I lay the petition from the former employees of the defunct East African community. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay.
Let the records capture that. Honorable members, the petition is received, but is one of those unique petitions that are specific, and the matters seem to have also been partially settled. I would like to use the prerogative of the Speaker under Rule 29(6) to directly refer this petition to the ministers responsible for public service and finance. Because if we refer it to a committee, it will be a whole process, then they come back here, then we debate, then the ministers respond, but let them deal with this subject matter directly and come back to the House within the framework of the rules so that we can have finality on this matter. We can have a debate if necessary, but if solutions can be found that will not require further debate on this matter, that will also be up to the sectors that are involved in this matter. So this petition is substantially referred to the ministries responsible, the ministers responsible for public service and that responsible for finance to collectively handle this petition and report to the House within the framework of the rules. The clerk is directed to extract the minutes and transmit these petitions with a copy retained in the House to the ministers responsible. Thank you. Next item.
Item 8, laying of papers, the report of the delegation of parliamentary commissioners to the Parliament of South Africa, Cape Town, from 12 to 16 June 2017.
Honorable Commissioner. Next.
Item 9, motion for adoption of the proposed amendments to the rules of procedure of Parliament
No,
of Uganda.
there's a commissioner here to lay.
Mr. Speaker, for record purposes, I'm in fact a commissioner.
Proceed.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have allowed you if you were not.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay a report of a delegation of parliamentary commissioners to the Parliament of South Africa, Cape Town, from 12th to 16th June 2017.
Let the records capture that. Honorable members, the rules we are dealing with are going to make provision on how we can handle these particular reports of delegations in a better way. Next.
Item number 9, motion for adoption of the proposed amendments to the rules of procedure of Parliament of Uganda.
Yes, Chair, can you update us where we are on this matter?
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Yesterday, debate on amendment to the rules of procedure was suspended when we were considering a new rule to be inserted immediately after Rule 86, which would list the methods of voting in the House. And the proposed amendment was insert a new rule immediately after Rule 86 as follows. Every member present in the House at the time of voting shall cast a vote. Voting in the House shall be by A, voice voting, B, secret voting, C, electronic voting, D, division, or E, roll call and tally. Justification: to introduce the different methods of voting.
Honorable members, that was the amendment as proposed by the committee. I'll put the question to that amendment. Will those in favor say aye? To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Next.
The committee proposes that we replace Rule 87 to read as follows. Voice voting. Sub-rule 1. Except where these rules expressly provide otherwise, where a matter is to be put to vote, voice voting shall be the default method of voting. Sub-rule 2. When a question has been put by the Speaker or the Chairperson, the votes shall be taken by voices of ayes and nays, and the result shall be declared by the Speaker or the Chairperson. Justification: voice voting is the default method of voting.
I put the question that amendment. Will those in favor say aye? To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Next.
The committee proposes that we amend Rule 88 by inserting a new paragraph C as follows. Sub-rule C, and on any matter where the House resolves that such a matter be voted upon by secret ballot. Justification: to allow the House decide, depending on the circumstances, to vote by secret ballot.
I put the question that amendment. Will those in favor say aye? To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Thank you. Next.
The committee proposes that we replace Rule 89 to read as follows. Roll call and tally voting. Sub-rule 1. Roll call and tally voting shall be held in the following circumstances. A. At the second and third reading of a bill for an act of parliament to amend the provision of the Constitution. B. On a decision to censure a minister. C. On a decision on an appeal from the President or a reference from the Appointments Committee on appeal to the House. Sub-rule 2. When the Speaker directs a roll call voting to be taken, the bell shall be rung for 5 minutes. Sub-rule 3. The names of one teller for the ayes and one teller for the nays shall be submitted to the Speaker, and the Speaker shall direct the tellers to take seats at designated places. Sub-rule 4. The Speaker shall then direct the doors to be locked and the bar drawn, and no member shall thereafter enter or leave the House until after the roll call vote has been taken. Sub-rule 5. The Speaker shall put the question again and direct the clerk to call out the names of members in alphabetical order in the presence of the tellers. Sub-rule 6. When called out, each member shall thereupon rise in his or her place and declare assent or dissent to the question in the following manner. I vote yes, or I vote no, or I abstain, or use a recognized sign language. Sub-rule 7. After the clerk has read the last name in the list, the tellers shall present the result of the roll call vote to the Speaker who shall thereupon announce the result of the vote to the House. Sub-rule 8, confusion or error. In case of confusion or error occurring in the course of a roll call voting concerning the numbers or names recorded, which cannot otherwise be corrected, the Speaker shall direct the House to proceed to another roll call vote. Justification: to provide for a more detailed procedure for the roll call and tally voting method.
Thank you. Chair, in sub-rule 6, which you have proposed, sub-rule 6, the use of the last phrase, or use a recognized signed language at the end, could import a problem. Suppose you put it, because there we don't know what you are referring to. Would it not have been better if you put it at the time when you're saying, and declare or use a signed language to show what they want to do? Would it not be better to be housed there than at the end? So,
Right Honorable Speaker, I agree with your guidance. So sub-rule 6 would then be amended to read, when called out, each member shall thereupon rise in his or her place and declare or use a recognized sign language.
His or her.
To assent or dissent to the question in the following manner: I vote yes, or I vote no, or I abstain.
Is that okay?
Clarification, Mr. Speaker.
Right, Honorable.
If it is clarification, Chair, you have to manage that.
Clarification.
Chair.
Clarification.
Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Right Honorable Speaker, in relation to sign language, are we opening it up as a choice for every member, any member who chooses to use sign language, or would we rather not restrict it to the PWDs? In which case it would, at the end you would say, or use a recognized sign language in case of PWDs.
And also you might want to look at the issue of the member shall thereupon rise. Suppose the member cannot rise.
Clarification, Chair. Further clarification.
Chair, please manage that process.
Yes, please.
Mr. Chair, mine is a general inquiry to the general justification of this rule. I was imagining a situation where the issues we are voting on are very controversial and sensitive, and a member may not have the courage to stand in this roll call and tally. Would we rather not that we provided this in the previous rule in secret voting, especially issues of constitutional amendments, Right Honorable Speaker? If I were to censure a minister in this House, and this is a colleague of mine, let me give an example of Honorable Freedom here, who is my very good friend. Would you imagine that I would have the courage to stand here and censure her? And so I think I wanted just a clarification from the chair why we did not maintain, why we would not use this opportunity to perhaps really protect certain issues which might need secret voting, especially on constitution and also other sensitive matters that I see in Rule 89, censure of minister and other things, right? Can I be guided?
Question. Chair, I've gone through the amendments you have submitted, the 8 of them. You have not accommodated the request which I formally put to the House yesterday, that in the event that a member chooses neither to say yes, nor nay, nor abstention, but just chooses to keep quiet, how would it be accommodated?
Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, as my honorable mother correctly pointed out yesterday, this report, upon presentation to this House, is now owned by this House, and any such amendment to be made will be made by the House. Therefore, I am not in position to include that amendment in these proposed amendments.
Yes, Kinkizi.
Thank you very much. Right, Honorable Speaker. Yes, yesterday we had an extensive discussion on that matter in the situation where a member just keeps quiet. And you gave guidance that keeping quiet shall be taken as abstaining, because abstaining means you are neither saying yes nor saying no. And I recall suggesting that maybe we provide a definition of abstaining to include when a member keeps quiet when a vote is called, so that is very clear in the rules. So I wanted to suggest that we put a definition of abstaining to include a member keeping quiet when a vote has been called.
Can we deal with this particular, because that's a specific thing. Can we deal with the proposed amendment in Rule 89? Can we deal with Rule 89? And then the member can substantially propose an amendment, because that one is running across secret, all these votes. You see, it's not just one. So let's finish 89, and then we go, if the member is going to substantially move an amendment to be put somewhere, or what you are proposing, then we can deal with it. But for now, let's deal with what has been proposed. Igara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Number 7. After the clerk has read the last name in the division list, Honorable Chair, was that not for the divisions? Division. I thought this was roll call and tally. We are using the general list of all members of parliament, not the division list. Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure whether the chair is listening to me. I'm drawing your attention to sub-rule 7, where you said after the clerk has read the last name in the division list. The division list is for the voting by division, which is in another section. This one is about roll call, and we're using the general list. So why use the division list here?
Right Honorable Speaker, as the records must have captured, when I read out this amendment, I left out the word division because it was put here in error.
So the word division is not there.
Clarification. Not there.
Clarification, Honorable
Chairperson. You know, it's important for you to say it, that members know.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, sir. I am seeking for clarification on this matter. The general list and the attendance list need to be referred to here. When we come here, we sign at the door with the electronic signing in. And the voting, I believe, will be done on the basis of the people who are present in the house. And this list can be obtained, I believe, by printing from the records that who is here in the house. The people who are voting are not all the members of parliament. Some of them may be on trips, outside parliament, absent, therefore. So, could it not be proper to say, referring to the general list may create some errors. Instead, we should refer to the list of the people who are in the house. How do you call that list? That is what I think could be working for the case of the voting. For people who are present, people who have signed in, the way you see the electronic database showing there, in and out.
Honorable members, they use the list of voting members of parliament. When they reach the members, because everybody will be here. If they reach the name of Honorable Dongato and he's not in the house, nobody can vote for him. They'll mark it absent. Or if they or if they call the Honorable Fungaro and he's not in the house, nobody can mark him as voting which one way or the other. So they use the general list to ascertain, because the members will be here to see who is voting anyway. So there's no issue.
Honorable Speaker, in this House, a case has arisen recently where a member of parliament here, a minister, was looked at as a stranger. This could also happen to a member of parliament who is new, who is not known. Impersonation can come in. We have this signature, the sign-in and the electronic data capture here, which shows who is here. So I feel that will be the best to use to get the list of the people who are in the house, please, not the list of members of parliament.
Honorable, let's not split the atom in this matter. The list that is used for voting anytime is the list of voting members of parliament. That is final. There's no debate about that. Please.
Honorable Speaker.
There's amendment?
Yes, too.
Oh, there was something. Let him respond to this, then we deal with the member for Kumi. Please proceed, Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, Honorable Monica Moding raised an issue which I think our amendments clearly take care of, because the House will decide the manner by which it will vote. Therefore, we cannot specifically state that on this issue it should vote this way. The House will decide.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I beg the indulgence of the House on this matter, because the amendment of the Constitution is no ordinary business, and also the issue that I make reference to, clause A and B, I think B is also very, very sensitive. I imagine a situation where you painfully have to censure. I remember, I think in the 7th Parliament, where a minister was censured in this House, and it became a personal battle eventually between the minister who was censured and the backbencher. So I think that to protect also our relations in the House, it's important that some of the things we protect them, they are voted in a secret ballot, so that, the safety, individual safety, and also relations of individuals are promoted. So I propose an amendment that we
Information. She's not writing an amendment.
We move
Please let
clause
us.
A and B and embed it in Rule 88, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move.
No, but honorable member, the general provision under secret voting is that the House can decide to do it on any matter. Yes, if the House is going to vote on the constitutional amendment and a motion is moved that we want to take this vote by secret ballot, and the House agrees, that is it.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Chair.
On A, Chair, on 88, it is specific that there shall be secret voting in the House in respect of. I believe that also this issue that I'm raising is something that should be specifically catered for, so that the House is not divided on deciding on how to vote on it, because sometimes there are very controversial issues and they need to be specifically catered for, that on such matters we vote by secret ballot to protect the image.
Can I give information? Can I give information, Right Honorable Speaker? Right Honorable Speaker, the points he's raising is not a new matter. The 7th Parliament indeed censored some ministers. And the censure is normally based on an issue. And I think it's important as members of Parliament to identify yourself with your people, what you think or what you vote on behalf of your people on that issue. Now, in the case of the 7th Parliament, we censored ministers who were alleged to have been corrupt, and there were cases laid before us for corruption. So your constituents who sent you here and the people of Uganda want to know your view on corruption, whether it is your friend or your husband or your wife who happens to be in the house who is being censored. You must tell people where you stand on the issue of corruption. So, Right Honorable Speaker, I stand here to oppose that proposal, proposal for amendment. I think we should vote on those issues of censor publicly for people to know the issues we are censoring a minister for, and you stand up to state your position on the issue. I stand to oppose.
Oh, members, please, let's seek guidance. Under the amendments which you have just adopted, in Rule 88, we adopted a new sub-rule C, which says, and on any matter where the House resolves that such matter be voted upon by secret ballot. So that would have to be a decision of the House, that on this particular matter, we will vote by secret ballot. It is a prerogative of the House. Yes, so it is not, but the general rule is that on constitutional amendment, and that is why, because issues where numbers, specific numbers are required to be proved that it was attained. That's why they are listing them here. But in any case where the House feels a matter should be voted upon by secret ballot, that matter will be voted upon by secret ballot if a motion is moved and adopted by the House. So why do you want to straitjacket it? I thought the amendment we adopted takes care of all situations. Please, I'm not going to, if you have, we have adopted that provision, and I'm just going to put it to vote. There's no debate on this matter. Because otherwise we'll never finish these rules. Yes?
Mr. Speaker, I have been here, this is my fourth term, and I've practically witnessed all these scenarios. I can raise good arguments on both sides. But I think what I would plead with members is we should not oust your jurisdiction to determine how to vote in each and every particular situation. Because when we cast it in rock and stone, circumstances change. I give an example. During the constitutional amendment bill of lifting, the one that lifted term limits, Honorable Nyombi Tembo, who was seated near where Honorable Abiriga is, I hope he's paying attention to what I'm saying. At the time of voting for lifting presidential term limits, Honorable Nyombi Tembo shot up and moved the motion that on this particular matter we want to vote by open voting. So even if you entrench it, someone would still move under the rules to remove it from those provisions. We amend that rule and we shall open it. It's still counterproductive. Now the argument started on both sides. Honorable members said, we want to be seen by our constituents. How we voted, we want them to see. Now, when we go for secret voting, how will your constituents know how you voted? Because there are those who want to be seen. They don't want to miss that opportunity to stand up to be counted. That's a very strong argument, and you cannot sweep it under the carpet. On the other side, there are also those who fear being seen. If you fear being seen, then you are in a wrong place. You are even in a wrong profession. Yeah.
Thank you very much, my senior colleague.
Honorable, on what matter do you raise?
No, I asked for clarification from him and he gave space, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you, colleague. I appreciate your argument, but you also appreciate that we have passed a rule which states under which circumstances we have to vote by secret ballot. Is it your intention, therefore, to state that all issues which involve voting should be left for a decision of the House at that material time? Is it that we're trying to say? Thank you.
What I'm saying, there is a general rule, but there must be exception to the general rule. And that is exactly what the committee chair has just been raising, and it's also the same thing our Honorable Speaker has labored to explain. The point is this: we must not host our jurisdiction to change the way we want to vote at any one moment. For example, we can say, we need to vote by show of hands on censoring a minister. But the circumstance we can put it in our rules, that for every censor, there is going to be open voting. But circumstances can rise, that minister turns out to be very dangerous, that they are fallen colleagues, courtesy of that minister. So we need not to tie our hands in that circumstance. We have to change the rules and say, since this is a very dangerous person, let us now, in this case, first vote by secret voting. So that is the kind of situation I am. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
The chair was holding the floor, and he gave Honorable Oto. The chair.
Right,
The
Honorable
chair.
Speaker. On sub-rule 6 to the amendment to Rule 89, we propose the following amendment. When called out, each member shall thereupon rise in his or her place, or raise his or her hand, and declare or use recognized and in his or her place, or raise his or her hand and declare, or by use of recognized sign language, assent or dissent to the question in the following manner: I vote yes, or I vote no, or I abstain, or I abstain. Right, Honorable Speaker, I believe that this will take care of members who cannot talk or cannot stand.
Amendment. Right, Honorable Speaker, we proposed earlier that where sign language is used or where someone is not able to stand and puts up their hand should be in respect of PWDs. So, yes. So, if you could read it, but insert in respect of PWDs.
Koboko.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Regarding the raising of the hands, Mr. Speaker, there are people with disability without arms. So you can say instead of raising hand, say raising any part of the body. Because you may need to raise the leg instead of the hand. Yes, that is the amendment. Yes, there are people without arms. Okay. Secondly, Madam Speaker, I think the statement of the chairperson is right.
Order members.
By the way, disability can come anytime. And a disabled person is a person who has been permanently disabled. But there are times when your voice goes off because of cough. There are times you are too sick, your mouth is swollen. So we cannot limit only to people with disability. I think let us keep the statement of the chairperson. Thank you very much.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I agree with my honorable colleague because there are clear definitions of who falls under the category of PWD. And as my honorable colleague has stated, a member may be disabled for a day on which voting is to take place and yet not be a PWD. What would we do with such a member? This amendment is of This amendment is of general application and I think can be expanded to fit any situation that arises, which does not fall in these categorizations.
Can I put a question to this? I put the question to the amendment. Will those in favor say aye? To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. That was the amendment to sub-rule 6, is it? Now I put the question to the amendment of Rule 89, the proposed amendment to Rule 89. I put the question, will those in favor say aye? To the contrary, no. The ayes have it.
Right, Honorable Speaker, the committee proposes a new rule to be inserted immediately after Rule 89 as follows. Electronic voting. Sub-rule 1. Electronic voting shall be ordered by the Speaker where A. The House has resolved that a matter be voted upon electronically. B. After the Speaker has announced the results of the voice voting and immediately 40 or more members stand in their places, signifying their disapproval of the outcome of the vote, and in the opinion of the Speaker, he or she deems it fit that the matter be voted upon electronically. Sub-rule 2. When an electronic voting is to be taken in the House, the bell shall be rung for 5 minutes, after which the House shall proceed to vote. Sub-rule 3. During electronic voting, members shall cast their votes by pressing either yes, no, or abstain button. Sub-rule 4. As soon as the results of the voting appears on the indicator board, the Speaker shall declare the results of the votes cast forthwith. Sub-rule 5. A member who is not able to cast his or her vote electronically due to any reason considered justifiable by the Speaker may, before the declaration of the results by the Speaker, have his or her vote recorded verbally by stating whether he or she is in favor of or against the question. Technical failure, confusion, or error occurring. Where a technical failure, confusion, or error occurs in the course of electronic voting, which in the opinion of the Speaker cannot otherwise be corrected, the Speaker may direct the House to another round of voting. Where the technical failure, confusion, or error continues to occur in the course of electronic voting, the Speaker may direct that the House proceed to a division. Justification. Arrangements are being made to introduce electronic voting in this House.
Yes, before you come in 5, Chair, are the votes only either in favor or against, or there's abstention as well? In 5.
Right, Honorable Speaker.
Whether, second last line,
yes.
Whether he or she is in favor of or against the decision.
Is in favor of, against, or abstain.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, that's a correction I wanted to make. We can actually even do it better by stopping at verbally. May, before declaration of the result by the Speaker, have his or her vote recorded verbally.
True.
Because we have already talked about the methods of...
Chair, you got that?
Then
if you stopped at verbally, because you have already talked about the aspect of voting in 2, instead of elaborating and...
Then in 2, under technical failure, confusion, or error occurring, when we say that where the technical failure, confusion, or error continues to occur in the course of electronic voting, the Speaker may direct the House that the House to proceed to a division. It's like we are now saying if electronic voting fails, then we'll go to a certain type of voting, which is going to the lobby. Can't we be open and the Speaker is allowed to direct us to vote in any other type of voting instead of a division.
Chair, there are those two proposals.
Right Honorable Speaker, this is a new rule. As to the Honorable Minister's proposal for Sub-Rule 5, I have no problem with that, provided...
Chair, just give me a minute. I have children who are living, I don't know which ones these are. We have pupils and teachers of Rainbow Christian School, Entebbe Municipality, Wakiso District, represented by Honorable Rosemary Seninde and Honorable Tumusime Rosemary. They are here to observe the proceedings. Please join me in welcoming them. We also have pupils and teachers of Makinde Junior School, Makinde, Kampala District. They are represented by Honorable Alan Sewanyana and Honorable Nabila Nagai. They are here to observe the proceedings. Please join me in welcoming them. Chair, proceed.
Right Honorable Speaker, Sub-Rule 5 introduces a new aspect of voting under electronic voting, because in Sub-Rule 3, a member shall press either yes, no, or abstain. Now, in Sub-Rule 5, this is to be recorded verbally, and that's why the committee thought that it would be important to be clear as to what the member would verbally state, whether it is yes, no, or abstain. It is really for clarity.
For the avoidance of doubt.
Thank you.
Okay. Are we okay with where we are so far, or the amendment is on this particular issue?
Yeah.
Padiere, then I have Kinkizi. Not King. Yes, Kinkizi.
Right Honorable Speaker, my amendment may not be specifically on this, but
So
on
can we finish with this one?
It's a general precaution.
On the clause, on the rule. On Rule 8, on the new rule.
Well, that's okay.
Okay, if it is not on the new rule, then let's deal with that at another time. Kinkizi had already picked Kinkizi.
I think you're right, Honorable Speaker. Right, Honorable Speaker, we have previously observed that there are some members who may not be able to verbally declare their position. So here we are saying the Speaker, due to any reason considered justifiable by the Speaker, may, before the declaration of the results by the Speaker, have his or her vote recorded verbally by stating whether he or she is in favor or against the question. So how do we consider the other category, Mr. Chair?
Instead of using the word stating, can you use the word indicating?
Right Honorable Speaker, if that is a better word for the sake of clarity, we can adopt it. As to the amendment regarding technical failure, we had proposed that where the technical failure or confusion or error continues, the Speaker may direct that the House proceed to division. Right Honorable Speaker, with your guidance, I would seek to say proceed to a division or any other manner of voting that is deemed
No,
by the
that
Speaker.
was not from me. I think it was from the Honorable David Bahati. It was not from the... Yes. Let me have Bukonjo West, then I have Buvuma.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Yes, you have a finger or thumb print, but you need probably to reinforce, or as a matter of precision and clarity, authenticate that with a verbal response. Mr. Chair, I'm trying to figure out a situation where you woke up yourself with a hoarse voice, and you are not in a position to express your position verbally, what happens? Mr. Chair, what happens? Or somebody right within the house, come on, somebody in the house, you have the ability to express electronically the thumb or fingerprint, but you have the inability to have your expression verbally. What in this particular provision or amendment do we cater for such a category? Thank you.
Right Honorable Speaker, as I had pointed out, this really is a general rule, and we cannot anticipate every possible disability that can befall a member in this House on a given day. And this is why we thought that it would be possible to state this rule as a general principle and leave it to the Speaker to decide based on that disability that occurs to that member suddenly at that particular time.
Yeah, I think that deals with it, because then the Speaker would say, Honorable Namboze, how do you vote? Then the Honorable Namboze would signify, would indicate the vote, and then it would be recorded. Is that clear, Honorable Members? Padieri, can I take a vote on this? Then we come to your issue, which was, you said was not part of this? Buvuma is here.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is also my second term in this Parliament of Uganda. But ever since I began, there is something that I've noticed, and the committee didn't capture it. We've had instances where we take the voice voting here, and the Speaker goes by the minority, not by the majority. Yes, please allow me to express myself. This is always what happens. If it is yes, the ayes have it there. So the Speaker, because of maybe his own interest, maybe didn't hear well, I don't know. For him, he goes by the majority, and you clearly also get to know that the Speaker has gone by the minority vote. Honorable Speaker, in the cases of voting, no, we are debating rules of procedure. And I think this would be good if we all debate fairly. Honorable Speaker, I would propose that in the case of voting, we provide some room for appeal in case someone is not satisfied, because even the Constitution provides for fair hearing.
Honorable Member, we have just passed a rule which says if the voice voting and you disagree, if members rise, 40 members rise in their feet objecting to that vote, it will go to division. You didn't hear that? Yes. But that has been the rule. It's not new. If members rise to their feet, 40 members rise to their feet, and just don't even say anything, they just stand, the Speaker will have to call for another vote. That is what has been proposed. Well, that's what we have been using. Can we move, please? Please. Chair?
Right Honorable Speaker.
Can we now take a vote on the
Yes.
Rule 8, the new rule?
Yes.
Can I put a question to the rule as amended? I put the question. Will those in favor tie to the contrary? No. The ayes have it.
Right Honorable Speaker.
You had a new amendment?
Yes, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, my concern has been on... Right Honorable Speaker, my concern on electronic voting is on the international principle that electronic voting must, first of all, protect the integrity of the voting material, that is, say, the ballot, must make the whole process of voting speedy, but also must make the tallying very credible. But, Right Honorable Speaker, where now the machine fails, here we are talking about a human being failing to access or to make good the voting using the machine. If the machine fails, for example, in tallying the results, and we want to keep proper track of the record of everyone's vote or voting trend, I thought there should be a provision that in case the system for the electronic voting fails before tallying the results, then there must be a provision that either every member now, or the House decides, or the presiding officer will decide on how to ascertain the person's vote away from the electronic vote system which has failed. In that way, we will protect our votes from unnecessary failure of systems or machine. Thank you. I beg to submit.
But is that what is proposed in 1 and 2? That's what is proposed in technical failure, confusion, or error occurring. There's proposal to that effect. Yes. As long as you have voted and the system is not working, whether at the beginning, in the middle, as long as you have not yet got the results. That's a technical error and the provision is there. Can I now have we finished with this? Yes. Okay, next please.
Right, Honorable Speaker, we propose an amendment to Rule 90 to replace Sub-Rule 1 with the following. Sub-Rule 1, a division may be ordered by the Speaker where A, a technical failure, confusion, or an error has occurred in the course of the electronic voting and the electronic voting cannot proceed, or B, after the Speaker has announced the results of the voice voting and immediately 40 or more members stand in their places signifying their disapproval of the outcome of the vote. Justification: this is introduced because of the introduction of the electronic voting in the House.
Igara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is voting by the division lobbies, but I realize that 1A is exactly what we've stated just above immediately. Under 2, it's a repetition, Chair of the committee. So is it possible to simply refer to what has been passed just above, where technical failure, confusion, error occurs in the course of electronic voting, Speaker directs the House to proceed to the division. You have simply repeated it under 1A. Then B, after the Speaker has announced results of voice voting, and then 40 members stand, signifying disapproval of the outcome of the vote. I realize, Mr. Speaker, that is the same provision under the electronic voting, that when there is voice voting and members 40 stand signifying their disapproval, under the electronic voting, we said we then proceed to electronic. Under division, we've said the same thing. So is it possible to capture what was up above, that in the opinion of the Speaker, he or she deems it fit that the matter be voted upon by the division lobby? So that we are clear, how do you not go to the electronic but go to the division? I hope I'm clear.
But Honorable, this is now about division voting, specifically about division, and it's setting the circumstances under which it occurs. So it's not under any other voting, it's under division now. So please let's leave it that way. Because electronic voting we have finished, now we are coming to division voting. Under what circumstances do we do division voting? That's what it is stating.
Speaker, just get my point this way. Both electronic and division are coming out of voice voting under B, under the electronic and under the division. And we're saying when there is a voice voting and 40 members or more stand signifying their disapproval, then they proceed to voice vote, electronic or division. Now, the point I'm making is both provides for the same, and it should be left to the Speaker, even under the division lobby, that it is in the wisdom of the Speaker that we then go to the division rather than electronic. I hope, Chair, it is.
Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, whereas it may indeed sound as if the committee is repeating itself, these are separate rules, and what we are trying to do is to operationalize them. Therefore, by clearly stating this under 89 and then under 90, we are trying to make the rule operational. When does the rule apply? So this is really an operational part of this rule. And even though it appears repetitive, but we have to operationalize the rule. We have to make it functional. When does it apply? And therefore, that's why we felt these amendments had to be made.
Honorable Batam, the one on the floor. Courtesy of the Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, for me, I'm particularly concerned with 90B, 91B, where the committee is saying that after the Speaker has announced the results of the voice voting, and immediately 40 or more members stand in their places signifying their disapproval of the outcome of the vote. Right Honorable Speaker, me, I have no problem with the rest of the wording there, but I have an issue with the numbers. There are times in this House when we take a vote on a particular matter and the numbers are generally small. Now, in a circumstance like that one, where we are less than 50 in the whole House and we are taking a decision, and then you require that maybe 40 or more members should stand.
You cannot take a decision without quorum.
Right Honorable Speaker, sometimes we do.
No. Please,
Yes.
please. You are on the record of this House. Please respect the integrity of this House. Please.
Right Honorable Speaker.
Please. Honorable members, I announced earlier that we'll be rising early today because there is the High Mass from our colleagues from the Catholic faith. And the people to preside over this Mass are already here. In the VIP gallery, please, this afternoon we have Bishop Joseph Anthony Ziwa from Chiinda Mityana Diocese and Vice Chairperson of Uganda Episcopal Conference. We have Father Frederick Tusingire, Secretary for Laity, Uganda Catholic Secretariat. We have Father John Baptist Kaganda, Executive Secretary, Pastoral Liturgy. We have Father Benedict Mugerwa, National Youth Chaplain. We have Father Philip Bali Kudembe, Chaplain, Catholic Parliamentary Chaplaincy. We have Sister Nalomansi, Chiinda Mityana. You are welcome, and we are mindful of your presence, so we are trying to finish business to give you time to deal with the business that brings you here. Yes, please.
Mr. Speaker, I am mindful of the two sides of the House. Imagine, Right Honorable Speaker, that we are taking a decision and the other side has mobilized and this side has also mobilized. But maybe at one point in time, we may not have more than 40 members on this side and they are not satisfied with the decision that's going to be taken. So, Right Honorable Speaker, how would you chew that, for example?
Honorable members, why it is put this way, it is not just, it's generally in the Commonwealth, that for you to challenge, it must be really a substantial disagreement, not just on any issue, not that in any situation that two members, as soon as they rise, you have a division. As long as 3 members stand, you have a division. It has to be something serious that incites a huge number of members of parliament to get up and say, no. In this one, no.
This was my proposal, Mr. Speaker.
So please, let's make, because is there any significant reason why we should change the number?
We should change the number, Right Honorable Speaker.
Is there any reason?
I have a proposal.
With the parliament that is over 427 members? Should we change number of 40? Really? Honorable members, really? 40 out of 450 members? Please. Please. Please, Honorable.
You will be on this side and you will see it. Yes, you wait. Even in 2021.
We have pupils and teachers of Seta High School, Mukono District, represented by Honorable Chivule Ronald and Honorable Peace Kusasira. I've got it right this time. They are here to observe the proceedings. Please join me in welcoming them. You're welcome. Yes, Oyam, then Ndorwa.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. I want to start by saying that I feel the number 40 is okay, but we have provided for provision on electronic voting and the division. I wanted to put it clear that we have secret voting here. And many times, even in national elections, you find that using secret voting, there is always confusion. So if there is always confusion, even in secret voting, how have we catered for here?
Order.
Point
Yes.
of order.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker.
No, Honorable, it is okay
Yes.
also to smile when you raise point of order.
Right Honorable, Right Honorable Speaker, we are here trying to get a scenario where the House should operate in a harmonized way. And Right Honorable Speaker, we are actually revisiting these rules mindful of the current situation in the House. I am very aware, Right Honorable Speaker, that most political parties which are in this House cannot even raise 10 members. Yes, they cannot even raise 10 members. UPC has 6, DP has 15, FDC has 37, and Right Honorable Speaker, you realize that there is a problem there. And so that's why I'm saying.
You rose on a point
yes,
of order.
The point of order which I'm raising is this. Is the honorable member of UPC who actually has 6 and she's the whip of UPC claim that 40 is good enough and yet she has 6 of members in this House.
Honorable members, when you are disagreeing with the results announced by the Speaker in voice voting, and your only source of discontent is because of a political party, then you have lost it. It has to be on an issue that you say, on this, no, you did not announce the vote properly. And that does not have to be UPC, DEEP, or anybody else. It just has to be members of parliament who have had the vote and disagreed. Please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for your wise ruling. Actually, when I'm here as a member of parliament of Uganda.
True.
Not as UPC. So I was looking at the number of members of parliament in this parliament of Uganda, not as UPC. Having said that, I was cut short when I was putting my point that even when we are doing the secret voting, Mr. Speaker, you find that sometimes there is confusion. And if during secret voting we have confusion, have we catered for here? Because in all elections, the voters sometimes will cast their votes in a manner which cannot really be read properly. So if there is confusion, which always arises of spoiled votes, how are we going to cater for that in terms of secret voting? Thank you.
Spoiled votes, Chair?
Right Honorable Speaker, I am not really an expert in how computer systems work. I only will suggest that maybe where a member has voted no when they intended to vote yes, I don't know how the system can be made to rectify it, but I would need to consult. I have no idea how this technology
No, she also
works.
talks about secret voting and there are spoiled votes.
Now, Generally, when we vote and votes are spoiled, they are counted as spoiled. Huh? What? Because I cannot, I don't understand what you are.
No,
Honorable member.
would a spoiled vote be a yes, a no, or an abstention?
I think the spoiled vote will just be a spoiled vote.
True. True. Ndorwa?
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise to again make clarification to the Honorable Rafael Majezi that if you look at Rule 90, the original rule was only providing for a division where there is some failure in voice voting and members have risen, 4 of them, to challenge the ruling. And that's major. And also in electronic voting, there is a high risk that a computer system can fail and there's total confusion. So in those 2 circumstances is what now the committee is providing for a division. And I think the committee has put it very, very well.
Members, can I put the question to this rule? I put the question to the amendment. All those in favor say aye, to the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Next, Chair.
Right, Honorable Speaker, the committee proposes that we rephrase Rule 107 to read as follows. Certificate of Financial Implication. Sub-Rule 1. Every bill introduced in the House shall be accompanied by a certificate of financial implications issued by the Minister responsible for finance. Sub-Rule 2. The certificate of financial implications issued under Sub-Rule 1 shall indicate the estimates of revenue and expenditure over the period of not less than 2 years after the coming into effect of the bill when passed. Sub-Rule 3. In addition to the requirements under Sub-Rule 2, the certificate of financial implications shall indicate the impact of the bill on the economy. Sub-Rule 4. Notwithstanding Sub-Rule 1, 2, and 3, a certificate of financial implication shall be deemed to have been issued after 60 days from the date of request for the certificate. Justification. This is in line with Section 76 of the Public Finance Management Act.
Yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, there are situations where we have a certificate of financial implication for a specific bill. However, with time, we find it necessary to amend the title of the bill. For example, if I can say marriage and divorce bill, if you want to amend it and say the marriage bill and marriage and stay bill, for example, how, no, I am giving an example. Mr. Speaker, sir, how do you use the same certificate? Yet this certificate was issued in regard to that title, including divorce. That is, now that you want to put stay, how do we amend that certificate, and how does our rule cater for that kind of amendment of the title?
Honorable members, a certificate is issued for a bill. Once the bill is already in Parliament, it's the property of Parliament. The certificate comes from the Minister of Finance. Once the bill is in the House, it's property of the House. The certificate of financial is only required to handmade the bill to bring it to Parliament. Once it is here, Parliament can do whatever it wants with it. Okay? So let's not go into amending certificates of financial implication when... Can I put the question to this?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we've had so many instances in this House when every bill is brought, we issue certificate of financial implications. But we've never issued any certificate of compliance. I wish to amend that as we issue for any bill the certificate of financial implication, each bill must also be accompanied by the certificate of compliance. We've had Honorable Amoding, Chair Whopper. She even came to the House here where money was diverted for women and was taken for other issues, women and the youth. But the problem originated from the bills the bills that were made. I would wish to amend that every bill that comes to the House, despite the fact that we put the certificate of financial implication, we also need compliance because government of Uganda has signed so many agreements.
Compliance with what?
Depending on the sector that the bill is going to cater for. If it is climate, it must be compliant to the climate. If it is gender, it must also issue a certificate of compliance to gender and human rights.
Chair.
Right, Honorable Speaker. This amendment only is in reference to the certificate of financial implication. And we are bringing these amendments because the new Public Finance Management Act 215 has introduced these requirements. Therefore, we are only amending the rules to align them to the Public Finance Management Act.
Can I put the question? Can I put the question?
Chair, I have a problem with second.
Yes.
The amendment on second, the certificate of financial implications issued under sub-rule 1 shall indicate estimates revenue expenditure over the period not less than 2 years. When you read it, any money provided for in the budget, it must be 1 year. 2, it must depend on the work plan of that agency which fits in within the program and policy of government. Because money which is not utilized in a year is returned in the center to the treasury. So the 2 years here, it contradicts section 13 of the Public Finance Management Act, which say that any money, if you don't have a work plan, which leads to you in a year, it has to return to the treasury. You are talking of 2 years.
Is this a budget now, Honorable Kakoza? Is this now a budget? Is the
No,
bill a
it's
budget?
not a budget. When he says a certificate of financial implications issued sub-rule 1 shall indicate estimated revenue and expenditure over a period of not less than 2 years, that after coming into effect of the bill, it cannot happen.
But don't you have projections in bills?
Right, Honorable Speaker.
MTEF is
The
midterm
projection
expenditure.
comes in 3 medium term.
Yeah, but this is a bill. A certificate saying that we can implement it in 2 years. Please.
What I'm trying to say, Right Honorable Speaker, that the moment Parliament appropriates for money for that budget year, even if it's a minister is issuing a certificate of financial implication, he cannot issue for 2 years.
Can I give you information?
Because it goes with contrary to section 13. If you read it, Secretary of Treasury cannot release money for 2 years.
Can I give you information? Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, and the Honorable Kakoza for giving way. I just wanted to provide information that actually what the committee did was to lift Section 76 of the Public Finance and Management Act 2015. And when you read 76.2, read it, it seems you have it. It says the certificate of financial implication is issued under subsection 1 shall indicate the estimates of revenue and expenditure over the period of not less than 2 years after the coming into effect of the bill when passed. So actually the provision in the rules is consistent with what is in the act which you are referring to. So I just wanted to inform you that just read the act. There's no problem
And
with
actually,
that.
usually the ministers don't even use years, they say in the medium term. So please, let's not. No, please, can I put the question to this? Can I put. Yes, Honorable Minister.
Sorry for behaving like our colleague Honorable Nzo, but it is very, very important. It's important. I wish this rule clarified further the mandate of the Minister responsible for finance, Mr. Speaker. I've seen situations where a bill comes to our side. We discover that this bill has serious implications on the economy, but then we don't know whether to advise Parliament that's not good or bad. So I wish it clarified the mandate of Minister of Finance so that it is very clear and we are not seen as if we are either giving or not giving.
It is very clear in the act, just like it is clear in what is being proposed. Yes, the act which you brought and we passed, the Public Order Management Act, that's what it says. Can I put the question? Unless you want now to move an amendment to your act without a bill. Can I put the question to this? Honorable Nzo, you'll get an opportunity to put him also in his place. Let's move. Can I put the question? Can I put the question to this amendment in Rule 90? I put the question. Will those in favor say aye? To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Next.
Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues,
Honorable members, can we rise at 1:45 to use another 15 minutes to give 15 minutes for the members to move for the mass? Can we use another 15 minutes very, very well, please?
Right Honorable Speaker, the committee had proposed the following amendment to Rule 111. Replace Sub-Rule 1 with the following new sub-rules. 1. A private member's bill seeking to amend the Constitution shall be introduced first by way of motion, to which shall be attached the proposed draft of the bill. But Right Honorable Speaker, during the 13th sitting of this House, of this session, you ruled on our proposed amendment, and the committee was satisfied with your ruling to the effect, because what we were proposing here was to have a member who is proposing a private member's bill to bring it without leave, but you ruled on this, why the leave is necessary. So the committee withdraws that proposed amendment in keeping with the ruling you made. And we only now propose to amend Sub-Rule 1 of Rule 111 as follows. 1A, a member shall not introduce a private member's bill where the government has made a commitment to introduce a bill on the same matter.
No, Chair, we want to make progress. Please withdraw that and we proceed.
Members,
suppose they make the undertaking this year and 2 years down the line there is no bill.
I'm doing so. But allow me to withdraw with dignity. No.
Even without dignity, you can still do it.
Right Honorable Speaker, these proposed amendments are amendments that were brought to the committee by members of this House. And if the very members propose that I withdraw them, I will withdraw this proposed amendment.
Thank you. There is no amendment next.
Right Honorable Speaker, the committee proposes that we insert a new rule immediately after Rule 116 as follows. Procedure where two similar bills are tabled. Where two bills are substantially similar, the committee shall consider the bill which was tabled first, and the provisions of the second bill shall, where applicable, be incorporated as proposed amendments to the first bill. Justification: to provide for cases where two substantially similar or with the same purpose bills are presented to the House. This occurred in the 9th Parliament when the Children Amendment Bill was introduced.
But why would you allow it to be two bills to be read?
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I'm a member of the Committee on Gender, Labor and Social Development. And when we were faced with a situation where two bills, the private member's bill, the Articles bill, and that of the government were introduced at the same time, the presiding chair then resolved, actually made a decision that the two bills be sent to the committee. Mr. Speaker, when the bills came to the committee, we ably processed the bills by intermarrying and considering merits of the bills case by case. Like we'd look at a particular clause of the government's introduction or of the bill, and then the one of the private member. Now what I'm trying to bring forward is, if we say that we use the rule of equity, the first in time, where there are two equal and competing equities, first in time must prevail. We don't want a situation where, like in the children's law, the government was actually deliberately delaying to introduce their bill. When Honorable Atiku brought his, then they're also timing and saying, oh, we also have ours here.
No,
and then sometimes,
no,
right,
please,
Honorable Speaker.
Please, honorable members, please. Once there is a bill on the same subject read for the first time in Parliament, why accept another bill of the same character to be read the first time? That one, I think, that was just courtesy to not disgrace people in the House. But I think, strictly speaking, you cannot have.
Right, Honorable Speaker. Right, Honorable, just to make something clear.
Because
right,
then you are going to end up with the four bills here on the same subject, and then you send them to committee.
Right, Honorable Speaker. The issue can be settled by the business committee. But that time you agree with us that all the bills, all the two, were on the order paper. Besides that, Honorable Speaker.
Let government shoot you.
Right, Honorable Speaker, you are very right. We should not allow two bills to be tabled. Even when it happened in the 9th Parliament, I attended the business committee and I was asked to formally withdraw the government bill because the private member's bill was more comprehensive. So I wrote to Honorable Mululi Mukasa, who was the Minister for Gender, and he came here and formally withdrew. So we can't provide a rule for a mistake. We just have to decide that we should not entertain two bills
on the same time,
on the same time.
Right, Honorable Speaker, with all the assurances that the committee has received, we shall withdraw that proposed amendment.
Thank you. We have 5 minutes next.
The committee proposes that we amend Rule 118, Sub-Rule 2, to read as follows. Under Sub-Rule 2, replace 45 days with 2 months. Justification: 2 months is more practical than 45 days. This answers the question whether the days as envisaged under the rules are calendar days or parliamentary working days.
Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
No, let me have Ndenjeru.
He's seated.
Mr. Speaker, whereas I agree with the proposal, with the amendment, I think instead of the expression 2 months, the expression should read 2 calendar months, and that will make it explicitly clear that we are talking about calendar months.
Suppose it is introduced on the 15th.
Then we should count 2 calendar months from that time.
2 calendar months, if it is introduced on the 15th of March,
Yes.
2 calendar months within March and April.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I have a different opinion. I think we should maintain 45 days. We should actually be thinking of even reducing the days. We cannot be again to increase. We sit here only 3 days in a week. Those are 12 days in a month. We don't have all that time. So the time that we are here, we should be using it maximum. And I think 45 days has been working on well, in my opinion.
Leader of the opposition.
Hey.
Right Honorable Speaker, I do agree with the Honorable Bahati that the 45 days can still suffice. Right Honorable Speaker, our laws have not barred anyone who thinks they have not thoroughly internalized their law to come up and ask Parliament for an extension of time. And from time to time, whenever members have come to the House to ask for an extension of time, time has always been granted. I would actually even be of the opinion that we reduce the time from 45 days to even 30 days so that in case members think that they still need more time, then they can ask for an extension. But in the meantime, I would pray that we retain the 45 days as provided in our rules.
Honorable members, can we retain 45 days, please?
Amendment.
Proceed. Chair.
Amendment, Mr. Speaker. It's a slight one, but very important.
Amendment.
Mr. Speaker. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, yes, I beg to move a slight amendment on the 45 days. To me, 45 days can still include Saturday, Sunday, and public holidays, which assumes that Parliament works on holidays. So I wanted to add 45 working days. I beg to move.
Achua?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether some members are making reference to plenary sittings or committee sittings. The experience of this House has shown that committees have sometimes worked even for 6 days in a week. So when you are defining the working days, it is actually a whole week. So 45 days should be sufficient enough to work on matters. And committees have gone over time on a number of occasions to produce reports for Parliament. I don't see the need why we should extend it beyond 45
Chair,
days.
please, Chair, advisors.
Right Honorable Speaker, under such circumstances, therefore, the committee will, with dignity, withdraw the proposed amendment to Rule 118, and the same would then apply to the proposed amendment to Rule 130.
Okay. There is no amendment. Oh, Mukono, municipality.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to propose an amendment that will put a limit to the time the bill can stay in Parliament and be processed. Mr. Speaker, as people have, a committee has liberty to come here and ask for time. But we should indicate that in any case, the extension shall not exceed 90 days, Mr. Speaker, I wish to propose.
Chair, we put an upper limit, we cap it. Chair,
Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker. As has been clearly stated, the practice has been that the committee is given 45 days. If it is not sufficient, the committee comes to this House and asks for an extension. I think there is no need to put a cap to this.
okay, there's no amendment. Can we, honorable members, it is 2:15, and we made an undertaking that we would pause at this time, and so to allow our colleagues go for the mass. Can I now end here? Because we're now starting a new part. It would be a good part to start. No, we have not amended that rule. All amendments proposed have been withdrawn. Honorable members, in the public gallery, we have pupils and teachers of Kagando Primary School, Kasese Municipality. They are represented by Honorable Robert Centenary and Honorable Winfred Kiza. They are here to observe the proceedings. Please join me in welcoming them. Thank you. House adjourned to Tuesday, 2 o'clock.